on Thursday, December 12th at 7:33 p.m. The first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. We need a motion to amend the agenda. Motion to amend the agenda by Mrs. Waters, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Fiorello. We're going to add another item right underneath the superintendent's report, item number B, and it's just going to be an update from Mrs. Friedman and Mr. Fiorello in regards to the meeting last night, the Rhode Island Association of School Committees. So I need a motion to approve the amended agenda. Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fiorello. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. 6-0. Please note for the record that Mr. Salvatore is not here tonight. No student government tonight. Mr. Costa, you going to give student government?
Usually they schedule themselves for the event.
Okay.
We have a big event going on at the high school right now with chorus, Amy James is both performing, so we have 20 kids there and about 300 kids. So I'm going to start by supporting our student government.
Great. At some point, that came up for discussion. Could we get our schedules aligned between the school committee and what's happening at the high school so that school committee can actually attend some of those events that conflict with us? Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, next is the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from the regular meeting of November 14, 2019, the special meeting of November 14, 2019, the special meeting of January 5th, 2019. We have approval of minutes from the executive session from 11/14/2019, the enrollment report from 12/1/2019, the school police report from 11/1/2019, the school bus inspection reports from 12/1/2019, and the residency truancy report from 12/1/2019. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda or discuss any item.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mrs. Waters.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Friedman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is a report out of the executive session meeting on 12/12/2019. There were no votes taken tonight in executive session. I need a motion to seal the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to seal by Mrs.
Waters.
Waters,
Second.
second by Mrs. Bernardo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is superintendent's report. Superintendent Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, if you could join me down at the podium, please. Well, good evening once again, everyone. As you all know, right around this time of year, we ask all of our principals and all of our buildings to nominate an individual in their school that they feel is deserving of the District Education Support Professional of the Year. And it really is a nice thing because we have an opportunity to hear from the principals in their nomination forms who they feel is deserving of this recognition. And as you all know, we have some really good support staff professionals in the district. So it is difficult for us to make an important decision in selecting one. But this year, there was a unanimous choice to be the recipient of this award, and it was Marty Crowley. And what I'd like to do is share with you what Mr. Costa wrote on the nomination form, which I think he did a really nice job of summarizing the impact that Mr. Crowley has not only on Cumberland High School, but on the Cumberland school system. In nominating Mr. Crowley for Support Professional of the Year, I take on the responsibility of highlighting this educator's commitment to the students and families of Cumberland. This year, we celebrate his 20th year of service to our community. I have come into contact with few individuals that match Mr. Crowley's dedication to our student body. During Spirit Week, Mr. Crowley is leaned on for his leadership at every event. On Tuesday, Mr. Crowley is busy refereeing our Powder Puff football games. On Wednesday, he MCs the lip sync contest. On Thursday night's class clash, he is busy organizing the activities, starting with, of course, a student favorite, Shipwreck. And on Friday, he again takes center stage, hosting the pep rally. Mr. Crowley's efforts at these events year after year are greatly appreciated as he brings excitement and spirit to our students. His positive interactions with students go far beyond this important week at Cumberland High School. Mr. Crowley can be found coaching the girls' softball team or one of the many dances that students attend. He is a dependable member of our staff whose motto just might be, just let me know what you need me to do. During many years of transition in our alternative learning program, Mr. Crowley provided some foundation year after year, helping new teachers as they became familiar with their new and challenging environment. This past year, after speaking with me, he chose to take on a new challenge as the high school shifted academic supports to the library to build our academic support center. He is demonstrating a leadership role as he works with a team of educators who service students with academic and social and emotional challenges while maintaining traditional library offerings. Mr. Crowley is a tremendous asset to Cumberland High School, and a very few students will ever walk through this school without interacting with Mr. Crowley at some point in their high school years. He is not someone that I take for granted, as I know that he supports so much of what we do academically and culturally. He is a humble individual and simply wants to be a member of our community, but he is not simply a member, he is a unifying force. And for these reasons, and many more, that is why Marty Crowley has been named the 2019 District Education Support Professional of the Year. So, you know, we had an opportunity to recognize Mr. Crowley at a faculty meeting last week, and he got a standing ovation from everyone in the audience because, you know, they know, everyone knows how valuable Marty is to the culture of that high school. And, you know, I've had a chance to interact with him on several occasions, and as I said at that faculty meeting, you know, one of the things that I appreciate is, you know, he's always so positive and optimistic. Like, I've never seen him have a negative moment. He is always up and has established wonderful relationships with students and staff. And, you know, as Mr. Costa said, he really is an asset to not only the high school, but the Cumberland School Department. He does a lot. While we were in transition between Matt Campanelli and his departure and the new athletic director, Marty took on some of that responsibility and really helped. That's just the kind of person he is. So we're thrilled that he has been recognized for all the good work that he does. And we have two things that I would like to share with all of you. One, this plaque goes to Marty. It says, Cumberland School Department 2019 District Education Support Professional of the Year, presented to Martin Crowley in recognition of your inspirational actions and excellence in educational support. And this plaque hangs proudly in the main foyer of this building. Marty's name has already been added, 2019, Martin Crowley. This says, Cumberland School Department District Education Support Professional of the Year. Marty, thank you so much for all that you do to support the students and staff in the Cumberland School Department. Thank you. You don't have to sign it. You're not usually short.
No, I'll be. Thank you. First, I got to thank Mr. Costa, obviously, for nominating me. I'm blessed to work at Cumberland High School and work in the Cumberland District. And on a daily basis, I work with educators who go above and beyond to assure that our students get the best possible education. And I'm just a spoke in the wheel to help keep it moving. I'm very grateful to have worked in this district for 20 years. And ironically to me, on the day this was announced, it was my dad's birthday, who had taught for 38 years in Woonsocket High School as the chairman of the Social Studies Department. So it was very special to me to if I can be half the man my dad was, then I've done something. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate this.
Let's get a couple pictures here. All right, Counselor, before you leave, Marty, Counselor Kinch would like to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Just a second, Marty. On behalf of the Cumberland Town Council, I also want to congratulate you. Myself, having first-hand knowledge with you over the years that I worked for the town, I couldn't sum it up any better than the superintendent did. Always positive. Made it the fun place, the place to be, and you impacted a lot, probably more students than you even think you did with the way you worked with them, and I just want to congratulations, and maybe one more standing ovation. You deserve it. Thank you,
Well, that was well-deserved.
Yes, it was.
All right, next order of business is item number B. We're going to get an update from Mrs. Friedman and Mr. Fiorello in regards to the Rhode Island Association of School Committees meeting last night that was held in Providence.
So last night I attended the school committee chairs meeting on behalf of Paul, and it was a great meeting to attend because the Rhode Island Department of Education Commissioner Angelica Infante Green was the guest speaker, and we had some really candid conversations around her priorities for education in Rhode Island and what we should all be thinking about. So I'll just share with you some of her priorities. First, as a state, she wants to focus on math, increasing math proficiency as a result, certainly of the latest RICAS results. And she's asked superintendents to reach out to schools that have performed better than they have. And she's really trying to promote collaboration amongst the superintendents. And I believe that we've actually had some superintendents come, or others, to learn from us. So that message that she's sharing is getting out. So it's just trying to get everyone in Rhode Island to learn from each other. And kind of, my sense was kind of become one Rhode Island versus 39 school districts. How do we together help move the state forward? She has added a third deputy to focus on the turnaround of education in Rhode Island. She, right now, she's responsible, she's running the Providence School District in addition to her day job as the Commissioner of Education. And one of the things she's done is brought Ernst & Young in to audit Providence. And she said she's going to be releasing those results shortly, and she believes that there will be some recommendations that can be shared with all the school districts around how can we maybe manage our financial resources and other resources more efficiently. So we'll be looking forward to that. A suggestion was made that maybe we bring the business managers together of the districts and learn about these Ernst & Young results and see how, what we might be able to learn. Again, her focus really is collaboration, and how do we get all the different administrators within the state to learn from each other. Her focus on budget, she says she's put an increase in for English language learners, students with IEPs, and social and mental counselors, and that she needs our support to reinforce that there is a need for that. And we know here in Cumberland that we've been talking about that for a few years now in trying to add, especially the social and emotional supports that our students need. The conversation went in a lot of different ways, but at one point when we talked about collective bargaining and agreements with the teachers, and we talked about the importance of professional development and how some contracts have it written in, some contracts don't have it written in, and all that. She gave an impromptu shout out to Cumberland for the work that we have done around professional development and the impact it has had on our RICAST results. So that was like, yay. There was some, a lot of discussion around the field trip policy again, because we still don't quite feel like each district knows exactly how to implement. She did say that the South Kingstown field trip policy is the best one out there right now, and working with the ACLU on that. And they did share that with us today to look at. And then I think the last thing I would add is there was a lot of discussion around students going out of district and the budgetary impact to the district that loses the student, whether it's going to charter schools or it's going to a school that offers a career and technical pathway that their school doesn't, and helping her to understand that we give that whole student cost when we give students to, let's just say, a charter school, and we know the impact it has on us. And she said that she's going to look into that further, and I think, is there a reduced cost that could be rather than the whole student cost? Because we know that student cost covers many, many other things besides just educating that one student. And for us in Cumberland, how much money do we lose each year for students going to BVP? And if there's something that can be done at that level to reduce that, that would be a big win for us. So she's got a lot on her plate and a lot that she wants to achieve, and I have high hopes. I have high hopes. So, Mark?
The only thing I would add is, having met Commissioner Gist and Commissioner Wagner, and now Infante Green, she's a different kind of person than the other two. She is a more, I would say, down-to-earth person. I'm sure she rubs people the wrong way in some cases, but she seems to be more of a trench fighter. And I think she will have really a positive impact on education in Rhode Island. She'll probably ruffle some feathers, but let's face it, that's probably going to be a good thing.
All right, thank you both for that update from that meeting last night. Anyone have any questions? None? Okay, so we'll move on to payment of bills. Fiscal did meet upstairs tonight. As I said earlier, Mr. Salvatore is absent, so I stood in for him, and we have payment of bills in the amount of $1,873,112.45. We did review the register with the business manager. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mrs. Waters. Second by Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0. Next was the fiscal management subcommittee update. We did have a meeting with Sedesco Foods, and right now we're right about break even in regards to that. With that, and we did have a meeting with the business manager. Currently, the school district is about $300,000 running in the red at the moment, but hopefully that will pick up and will be to the black. But I do want to make note for the public is that we've been notified by RIDE that preliminarily we could lose about $815,000 in state aid to the school district in next year's budget. And that is due to the 2016 valuation of the town property in town, and the property valuations are going up 14%. And the state aid is not to supplant the town aid, and they figure that if the town's property values went up, you should be able to tax and give money to the schools appropriately. So right now, that's on our radar because $815,000 is a big hit to make up, and that goes along with approximately, we're down to about 67, 68 students for free and reduced. Maybe that 14% property value helped that number there, and we don't have so many children that need the services, but every student that we don't have is about another $4,000 in extra state aid from the state, so we could lose another close to $300,000 there as well, and that's going to be a big hurdle for the town of Cumberland to overcome, especially this school district, considering what's happened, in the past. And the mayor is aware of the situation. It is fluid with the state right now, but that's the preliminary numbers that we've gotten so far. So we'll have that meeting Monday night with the town fiscal finance subcommittee meeting at the library. I believe it's at 6:00 p.m. If anybody would like to attend, and we'll give them some more information, and we'll have a 5-year plan from the school department that we would have for them. So that's that. And then the one other thing is we did approve to buy Chromebooks for the high school, 355 Chromebooks, and that'll come up at a resolution at the end of the, more closer to the end of the agenda. So that's the Fiscal Management Subcommittee update. Next is Policy and Procedures Subcommittee. Mr. Fiorello.
Yes, Policy and Procedures was able to meet on Tuesday night, where we talked about a handful of policies that have been, quite honestly, sitting on our agenda for the last few months. I'm happy to say that they were all passed. We will get to those later. We also discussed which policies that we are going to address coming in January. And they are, we're going to review the meal policy. There is also some talk that we might need to have a smoke-free policy. We're just going to check state law as to whether or not we need to actually have one. We also will need to update the affirmative action policy, and there is a revised volunteer policy that Mrs. Bernardo and Mrs. Zukatis had worked on previously. We just weren't able to fit it on the agenda, so that'll be discussed also. And one of the points on our agenda was the fundraising and crowdsourcing. What we have done is we've folded the crowdsourcing into the fundraising policy, and then sometime in January, February, once we get a better feel for what the legislature is going to do, we'll probably revise those policies a little bit further to take into consideration some of the things that may be coming up. So, but we will be voting on policies later in the agenda.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fiorello. Next is Achievement and Communications Subcommittee update. Mrs. Friedman?
The Achievement and Communications Subcommittee also met on Tuesday night, and we began the first of several focuses on each school in the district. So the first school that came in on Tuesday night was McCourt Middle School, and we dedicated almost the entire agenda to McCourt coming in, giving us an overview of the demographics of the school, the achievement levels of the school, the culture of the school, and just a couple of things to highlight in here. So we had Dr. Masterson, we had Mrs. Oliver, who's the Assistant Principal of School Culture, Dr. Cody, who's the Assistant Principal of Teaching and Learning, and Mrs. Rayo, who is the teacher coach, and they talked about, the impact that all of them together are making. In terms of demographics, we've been talking about the reduction in students who are in free and reduced lunch, And Dr. Masterson raised that as well. They've been averaging 48% of their population on free and reduced lunch over the past several years, and this year it's at 35%. He did say that RIDE came in and said that they're seeing this across the state, and one of the reasons that they're saying is that people are less likely to fill out federal aid forms, and there's, I guess, some fear in that. So trying to get at the bottom of, is it, people who need this aid but are afraid to ask for it, or are we all, or people need less aid? So they're seeing the impacts of that, certainly at McCourt. They went over their areas of strength, and they've had high growth in ELA and high growth in math. We know that there still needs to be focus in these areas, and I think the administration, along with Dr. Devana's office, has done a great job of digging into the data, the achievement data, to determine trends and develop plans for closing the gaps. And Dr. Cody says that she has no doubt that the addition of these essentials, last year, the school committee put into the budget, and we all voted to add essentials teachers, 2 at ELA and 2 for math, and they have no doubt that this is going to have the impact, and is having the impact that we had all hoped. So helping to get kids that are kind of on the bubble to proficiency, and those things will impact, RICAS results and STAR reports going forward. And 85% of their student population is in an essentials class, or in at least one essentials class. They have reduced truancy from 12.5% to 8.5%. They've reduced suspension rates. So they are doing a lot of things to improve the culture and really focus on each individual student, both academically and I'd say socio-emotionally as well. And the teacher-coach model that's going on at McCourt seems to be hitting it out of the park. So when we talk about professional development and hands-on coaching, and this is what we've been talking about, how can a teacher-coach have a really big impact on performance of teachers in the classroom, and then ultimately on students. So there's a lot of good things going on, and I left the meeting confident that, they are really focused on the right things and are digging into the data, and with Dr. Demana's office, will continue to improve over the years.
Great update. Anyone have any questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to District Health and Wellness Subcommittee update for Mrs. Bernardo. Thank you.
Thank you. The Health and Wellness Committee met on Thursday, December 5th. There's a lot going on there right now. Currently, we've updated the Health and Wellness website. We relaunched the Facebook page. We have had about 6 new Cumberland community members join the group. Currently, individual school health and wellness reports are due, so those are going to be sent out to all of the principals so they can start working on those. Once that is completed, it'll be compiled into a district report. The annual report is also being worked on and should be posted to the website soon. Some of the updates that we've received reported out from the elementary schools was the conscious discipline professional development that's been going on, and they're seeing a lot of positive outcomes in the classroom. The high school, Mr. Acosta let us know about the high school students group created an Instagram account called Fitrition, and it's the Fitrition Challenge, where they challenge their fellow classmates to either fitness goals or nutrition goals, and when they post pictures of them completing those goals, they get entered into a contest. They've actually been recognized in the December newsletter of the Rhode Island Healthy Schools Coalition. If you haven't seen that, they are highlighted there. And coming up, we're going to be beginning a just in general health and wellness policy review. It is due to be looked at to make sure it is all up to date with all state and federal laws. And our next meeting is January 2nd, the first Thursday of the month. Yep. Yes. Yes.
Okay, any questions from Mrs. Bernardo? All right, hearing none, thank you for the report. Next on the agenda is comments from the public. If anyone would like to speak to the school committee or address us, please please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Hearing none, we'll move on to public hearings. Next is reading of amended policies. Item number 1 is G6 Personal Benefit Policy for Non-Unit Administrative and Support Personnel. Mr. Fiorello, you just want that read into the record?
Yeah, just read it.
Okay. Item number 2 is I-13, High School Proficiency-Based Grading. Number 3, J2, Attendance. Number 4 is J15, Student Fundraising. Number 5 is J22, Administration of Naloxone, which is actually Narcan. Okay, next is item number B, reading of new policy. This is the first reading. This is going to be tabled. Item number 1, G20, is now tabled by Mr. Fiorello. Next is public comment on any of these policies. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Item number A, discussion and a vote to approve homeschool instruction requests for the 2019-2020 school year. Mr. Superintendent.
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 new requests, and I recommend approval.
Superintendent moves passage of the 3 new requests for homeschooling. Do I have a motion to approve by Mrs. Waters? Second by Mrs. Bernardo. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Item number B, vote, including discussion, if any, requested by teacher on Teacher A pre-suspension hearing as prescribed in Rhode Island General Laws 1613-5. That matter is tabled to our next meeting in January. Item number C, vote, including discussion, if any, requested by teacher on Teacher A dismissal as prescribed by Rhode Island General Laws 1613-3 and 1613-4. That is also tabled to our next meeting in January.
We have to table
Right. Okay. All right, so let's take a vote on item number B to table item number V, the discussion, motion to table. Seconded by Mrs. Friedman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. And item number C, vote including discussion if requested by teacher. I need a motion to table. Motion to table by Mrs. Waters, second by Mrs. Friedman. Mr. Fiorello, all in favor? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is discussion, item number D, discussion and a vote to approve resolution SCR 1312, 2019-10, purchase of Chromebooks for the high school. That was heard up in fiscal, and the amount of, it is a resolution authorizing and empowering the Cumberland School Committee to execute a purchase from Hub Technical Services of 44 Norfolk Avenue, Southeastern Mass, for 355 Chromebooks for the high school in an amount not to exceed $76,768.75, and this is budgeted in this year's technology budget. Need a motion to approve? Motion to approve by Mrs. Waters?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Friedman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is item number E, discussion and a vote to approve amended policies. Number 1, G6 Personnel Benefit Policy for non-unit administrative and support personnel. Mr. Fiorello.
Yes, this was discussed the other night. There are 2 small changes. One was the salary range and the title of the preschool administrator, which is now being called the preschool coordinator, and the salary range was changed from, I don't have the number in front of me. It is now $85,993 to $89,762. Also, the other change was a necessary change for the cell phone stipend for administrators who choose not to take a district-issued phone, but rather just to take essentially the buyback for it. So we just changed that to lower the amount. Actually, we've just removed the amount altogether, so it'll just be whatever the current monthly charge of that phone would have been. Mr. Chandler is on the verge of getting a new contract for cell phones, and as a result, our monthly maintenance costs will actually be reduced. Thank you, Mr. Chandler. So I would actually make a motion to approve this policy.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve item number G6. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Waters. I just have one question for you, Mr. Fiorello. Are we going to update the G6 policy for the administrators that we had discussion with last year about that needed to be taken care of?
Actually, I'm thinking that we're going to have a pretty hefty revised G6 policy. What I'd like to do is rewrite the policy so that we don't need to revise the policy twice a year, every single year. So maybe we just put that information somewhere else, and the policy will just refer to that information from the business office.
Okay.
We'll have that discussion though in full, and
Right.
we'll figure out what we all want to do.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the G6 policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is item number 2, I-13, the high school proficiency-based grading. Mr. Fiorello?
Yes, this was really just to address a typographical error in the policy. In the grade equivalents on page 2 of the policy, it listed the 1+, the 1, and the 1- as I pluses or 1+, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but they were changed to the correct nomenclature of F+, F, and F-. So there was no change, it was just fixing the typographical error within the policy itself, and I would make a motion to approve.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Waters. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is the J2 attendance policy.
The change on this policy was actually also kind of minor. On page 4 of the policy, if you've read the red line version, the attendance of the social suspension for middle and high school, which was at 10 absences, would result in a 25-day social suspension. That would put us beyond the reporting, Mr. Mitchell, maybe you can explain this better than I can. It's the way that RIDE would basically penalize us in our school grading for having students at 18 absences, thank you. It's been a long day. 18 absences. So what we've done is we've reduced the number of absences. That'll kick a social suspension into action from 10 to 8 per semester. We've removed all trimester language. It's just for the semester now, which the middle schools are okay with as well. And what this will do is it'll ensure that we are not essentially letting students miss a number of days that will also put us right behind the 8 ball automatically with RIDE. So this will be better for our school reporting. And I would make a motion to pass.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to pass J2, the attendance policy. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Waters. Any discussion? All in favor? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is student fundraising. Item number J15.
J15, fundraising, also it's now called fundraising/crowdsourcing. It is just to fold into the whole crowdsourcing, crowdfunding aspect that is now happening across the land. Dr. Masterson did some great work on this. We have been just included it into the fundraising policy at this time. As I said earlier, we will need to revisit this after the first of the year, because we'll need to have some more comprehensive parts for a personnel version of this policy. But we did not want to do this at this time. We wanted to see exactly what happened, because we know we're going to have to revise this policy again after the legislature starts discussions about fundraising and field trips, so we didn't want to create more work for ourselves than we need to. But right now, this policy spells out everything that a teacher or any staff member needs to do to initiate a crowdfunding campaign. The most important part of it is they need to get their building administrator approval. And then the building administrator will follow the steps. The administration will create a crowdfunding form that will be filled out, much like the fundraising forms are filled out. And this should really help us move forward and start being able to take advantage of some of these programs. If anybody has any specific questions about the policy, I'm happy to answer them. But I would make motion to pass.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to pass J15 student fundraising. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Waters. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0 on the roll. Item number J22, administration of naloxone.
I am just going to call it Narcan. This policy was revised by Dr. Santa. The state had changed some laws regarding this, so she took the opportunity to kind of streamline the policy. There are very small changes to it, really. A lot of it is really just cutting down the language and the verbiage. Most of it just talks about replacing the nurse teacher with the word personnel, just to make it a little bit more wide-reaching, and removes any of the actual procurement of the Narcan, so that we don't need to be so specific as to what sizes we're getting. So this policy brings us in line with the current state regulations, and also pretty much is what we've been doing all along anyways. We have it in all of our schools in case of any kind of emergency, whether it's a student, a faculty member, which could happen, or just a member of the public that happens to be visiting the school at the time. This is a good policy, and I would move passage.
Mr. Fiorello moves passage of J22. Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Waters. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is discussion and a vote for new policy. First reading, G20 crowdfunding and crowdfunding sourcing.
I would make a motion to table this policy.
Mr. Fiorello makes a motion to table. Second by Mrs. Waters. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0 to table. Next, we have a couple of personnel recommendations. I'll just read them, Mr. Superintendent. I have them in front of me. Resignation, I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the resignation of Kelly Drake, Director of Human Resources for the Cumberland School Department, effective November 30th, 2019. I need a motion to approve. Motion approved by Mr. Collins, seconded by? Second by Mrs. Friedman and Mrs. Bernardo. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is the leave of absence. I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the unpaid leave of absence for Kathleen Pedro, custodian nights at the Joseph L. McCourt Middle School, with an effective date of October 21st through the end of the 2019-2020 school year. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Mrs. Waters, second by Mrs. Friedman. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is an appointment. I request the advice and consent of the school committee on the appointment of Megan Dubois, special educator for 1 year only at Ashland School with an effective date of January 1st, 2020. It's a full-time position. Step 1, the copay is 20%. Need a motion to approve? Motion by Mrs. Bernardo, second by Mr. Collins. All in favor? Ayes have it, 6-0. And we have a coach's appointment for the high school. Richard Goudreau Jr., indoor track and boys varsity. Motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mrs. Waters.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Friedman, Mrs. Bernardo. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0. Next is school committee comments, school liaison reports. Anyone have anything you want? Mr. Collins, go ahead.
I just want to bring up the issue with the bus that occurred on Tuesday. It was reported that McCourt Middle School, the boys' basketball team, didn't get home until 7 o'clock because the bus left, which was not part of the agreement, which was the same thing that happened with the soccer team in the fall. So the busing issue keeps resurfacing, but this is something different than, a call-out. This is something different than, an accident, a late pickup. This is blatant disregard for what they agreed to do. So I don't know if, Mr. Mitchell, you spoke to the bus company this week at all, or?
Yes, well, that happened on Tuesday?
Tuesday, yes.
So I did get a message, an email first thing Wednesday morning. I did not know that happened, and it was the general manager, Armando Ferraro, which actually brought it to my attention, and I asked him, to provide more information about what happened. And by the way, I subsequently heard from Stephen Schmuck, who you have all met. He is the vice president of Northeast Operations, and they both apologized, and they said that a decision was made, and I got to be careful here, but a decision was made by the driver that resulted in a more significant delay in picking the students up, and it was because of the decision that there was it was the reason why the bus was so late in picking up the students after the game. So they did apologize, and they are taking action to address the issue in this particular case with the driver of the bus.
I can just add to that because I reached out to Mr. Schmuck and a couple of others and let them know my feelings. The driver left and didn't stay with the kids as is instructed. Mr. Schmuck says that the driver will be disciplined because he violated our instructions not to leave, but it's still just a continuing process with Durham, and somewhere along the line here, we're going to have to go out to bid, and, the school committee is just going to have to make a choice whether we want to spend maybe another $500,000 a year on busing and get our children to school on time, learning where they should be, or do we put up with this again and again and again? And if I'm here in the school committee, they know what my answer is going to be already, so that's what happened there. And then, if there's no one else have a comment, I just want to say to Mr. Demana and his team, a great job he did at the council meeting last week about the update with the RICAS scores. It was short, sweet, and the council was certainly appreciative, and I'm glad our councilor here, Mr. Kinch, who's our school liaison, did politely point out that to move 3 or 4 kids in Jamestown would be like 300 kids in Cumberland to moving them up the score, and it's really not apples to apples when you get, to a Jamestown in front of you that did less. But you did a really good job presenting it, and they were happy. So I just want to give you a congratulations again. Anyone else? Hearing none, it's going to be, the holidays are coming up, so whether it be Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festus, or whatever it may be, the Cumberland School Community wishes you all well and safe, and we will see you in July unless we have to have another special meeting. Superintendent?
January.
In January.
January,
So-
July.
I'm losing track of all these meetings. I need a motion to adjourn? Motion adjourned by Mrs. Friedman, seconded by Mr. Collins. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everybody.